Tier list, Nighty cheeky tier lists. Tier list, Nighty cheeky tier lists. Hello everyone, Chris Nightingale here with another cheeky tier list. Now, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the Big Dipper roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. And so therefore I decided that I would do a tier list of all the roller coasters at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. As you can see around me, I've got the Pleasure Beach Bears dotted around in my study. And away we go with this tier list. So, I've got 5 categories: classic coaster, good, decent, needs an upgrade, or bye-bye to the Pleasure Beach. A ride that should be, thanks for the years of service, but it's time to go. So, let's start with Avalanche. Now, Avalanche is a classic, I would say, family ride at the Pleasure Beach. It's always very popular with parents and children, as is the whole park, but of all the roller coasters, especially watching it outside looking in, it seems to be most popular with families, parents and young children. I think, for me personally though, I think Avalanche is just a decent ride. I don't think it's unique, but it's over far too quickly. It's way too short. And for me, that hinders it. I think it's enjoyable, but I wouldn't go out of my way to ride it. When I'm at the Pleasure Beach, there are lots of other rides that I pick over Avalanche. I only really go on Avalanche when there's no queue to it. I wouldn't say I queue up for like an hour to go on Avalanche, personally. So I put it as decent. I think it's good for the park because it's a unique ride, but yeah, for me personally, not my favourite. The one that has the big birthday this year, it's a classic. It's got to be a classic. It's one of the original wooden roller coasters in this country, and it's getting a refurbishment this year. The Big Dipper is iconic. It's a brilliant ride. It's an absolute brilliant ride. Now, truth be told, I think the 2 other wooden roller coasters, big wooden roller coasters in the park, are better than the Big Dipper, personally. So at the moment, in terms of, it's a tough one for me to rank, because in terms of its status, it's absolutely classic. And I'm probably going to keep it as classic. But in terms of ride quality, I think it's good. I don't think it's absolutely brilliant. I think they're doing some retracking work as part of the refurbishment of it, and that may smooth out some of the edges of it and make it better. Make the ride quality better, in the same way that Grand National's improved dramatically from the retracking work they've done on it recently. So ride quality wise, it's good. However, status wise, it's got to be classic. It's just got to be. And with all the work they're doing this year, I'm sure it'll ride brilliantly. And if it rides at its best, it's going to be one of the best rides in the park. Now, this is an interesting one. For many years, I didn't really ride the big one. In fact, I rode it once when I was, I think, 19, with my brother and my friends, and I kind of went on it because I felt that I had to do it. I was like, and I didn't really enjoy it. The height of it was too much. It just was too much. I was like, been there, got the t-shirt, I don't need to do it again. And then recently, having gone on Ice Blast, my dear friend Rory, encouraged me to go on Ice Blast, and I kind of got through my fear of heights on that. So I thought, about 11 years after riding the big one, I should give it another go. And I rode it 4 times on that day. It was in May last year, and I rode it 4 times, and it completely changed my opinion on it. And every time I've been back to the park since, I've always ridden it and enjoyed it a lot, actually. I think it is a classic. I think it's iconic with its the size of it. I know that Thorpe Park is going to top it with a taller roller coaster within the next year, so it's going to lose the status as the UK's tallest roller coaster. But yeah, the climb up is great. I actually thoroughly enjoy the views on the climb up. The first drop does take your breath away every single time. And the rest of the layout is pretty good. You don't get a lot of airtime on it. And some of the curves in it are a little bit rough. But in terms of just the scale of it, the thrill of the first drop, and the way it just dominates the skyline of Blackpool, it's got to be a classic. And the Pleasure Beach do a remarkable job in keeping. You can see every year they're retracking it. They're putting new stuff in there to keep it as smooth as possible and to keep it timeless and to keep it running as smoothly as it can. I think it's brilliant. So I've actually completely changed my opinion on the big one. A few years ago I would have gone, yeah, it's decent as a ride because I don't personally enjoy it. But no, now I actually do enjoy it as a ride. I appreciate its iconic status, so it's got to be classic. Blue Flyer, I'm going to put it as decent just because Blue Flyer is like the little tiny wooden roller coaster in Nickelodeon land that kind of, it introduces small toddlers to roller coasters. And in that respect, it does a great job. But me personally, I don't get much out of it because it's tiny. So I think it's decent. It's worth its place here. Now then, you ever talk about one of my favourite rides in the park in a minute. Grand National is for my money the best wooden roller coaster in the country. I mean, it beats Wicker Man. It beats all the other wooden roller coasters in the country. It's the best one. It's the most fun. You've got the interaction with the 2 trains going at the same time, having a race. It's great. The airtime is brilliant. You're literally just flying up out of your seat all the time. It is a lot of fun. It's just fun. It's wild and it's fun. It's a great ride. It is absolutely brilliant. And the fact that the Pleasure Beach, as with all their coasters, have just maintained it so well, especially in the last couple of years, they've really elevated. Because a few years ago, it was rough. It was almost too rough. A few years ago, it's like, oh, God, it was getting uncomfortable. Now, the uncomfortableness has died down a lot. And it's now back to, I wouldn't say completely back to the glory days when I used to ride it when I was like, in the 90s, when I was like 9 or 10, and you had, back then you had a single lap bar. You didn't have these 2 lap bars that kind of sometimes keep on knocking down on your knees. You had a single lap bar and a seatbelt. That was all you needed, because the single lap bar just went to a certain level and it meant you could really rise up out your seat, but you knew you weren't going to go anywhere because you had a seatbelt on. It was proper. The trains were better back then. If they could go back to those trains, it would make this even better. It would make this, maybe the best ride in the park. I don't know if it is the best ride in the park, but it's up there for me. If there's tweak 1 or 2 things with the trains, you're looking at the best ride in the park, which is quite amazing for a ride from 1935. Now to the ride that I think is the best ride in the park. Icon, the newest one. Pleasure Beach have just hit a home run with this ride. It's absolutely superb. Double launch, straight out the gate. The launches aren't too forceful. The airtime is brilliant. You're literally, you're proper speeding in and out of different types of roller coasters. The interactions, I think it has interactions with 3 different roller coasters, which is just superb. I mean, it's a brilliant piece of engineering. The fact that they've managed to weave it in and out of existing rides. It has a zero-G roll, where you really feel like you're floating out of your seat, and then it has the launch into an inversion. There's almost an inversion, and then it tilts back. It's just a sensational ride. It's absolutely sensational. It's the newest ride here, and sometimes the newest rides, the newest rides have the advantage of better technology, better engineering. You can give better molds. Computers can mold the tracks to make them smoother, and this has the advantage of that in the fact that it's a smooth ride. Not all rides in the Pleasure Beach are smooth because of just pure age. They can maintain them as much as possible, but age is going to play a factor, and the fact that you've got a steel track, computer manufactured molds that are perfectly in sync. Whereas back in the day with like Big Dipper and stuff, they had to work all this out by hand, by pen and paper, and go, well, that's going to fit in there because they have no computers to help them out at all with molding. It was all sculpted by hand. That's kind of gone now, and Icon is a prime example of it working really well. It's a superb investment. It's 5 years old now, Icon, and I do think it is the best roller coaster in the park. This is a tough one. Infusion. If you've ever rode in Fusion, you will know that it is. I'm going to put it here because I think it so easily could be there, maybe even there, but they've really got to work on it to get that right. Because the trouble is with Infusion is, it's brutal. I mean, it is seriously painful to ride. I've tried over the years to work out a way of riding that roller coaster without getting neck pain, back pain, my shoulders just knackered, and I still cannot work out a way of riding that ride without it being painful. I still ride it, and I make an effort to ride it at least once every time I visit, because I kind of, on the front row of it, it's a really, the real shame of it is a really good layout. It's a really good coaster. I mean, it really is, it's in the vein of like Nemesis, but the trouble is it's so rough. Like, you ride Nemesis, I mean, Nemesis is getting retracked, so it's going to be even smoother, but even before Nemesis was taken down, I think last year, that rode really well, and that is several years older than Infusion. And it was nowhere near as brutal as Infusion is to ride. It was relatively smooth, I thought, Nemesis. But Infusion just kills you. I mean, you come off and you look like an old man. You really are hobbling off that ride. It is brutal. It's really painful. And all they need to do is either smooth the track off, do a retrack of it, first of all, and secondly, just change the trains, for God's sake. Change the restraints, put some cushioning in there, for God's sake. Just honestly, I mean, it's in fact, it's an easy win for them. Just change the trains now. If you change the restraints on that now, you'll have a much more comfortable experience. You might not solve the ride completely, because there are some areas where it really jolts you, and it's like, Jesus. But you at least get cushion from the jolt, and you wouldn't feel like your head's being battered. So yeah, I think it has the potential to be a great ride. But the way, if they keep it as it is, and they don't do anything with it, they need to change it, get rid of it. Truthfully. I hope they don't get rid of it, because I think the potential's there for it to be fantastic. But they need to upgrade it. Yeah, it needs a lot of work on it. Now, you want the most underrated ride in the park? Nickelodeon Streak. Classic. It used to be called Roller Coaster. It's situated in Nickelodeon Land, and because of that, everyone looks at it and goes, oh, it's a little orange roller coaster. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be that intense. It's not really. But I tell you what, it is. You really, on that one, the trains are superb. They're really comfortable. The lap bar's great. They should have that train on all the wooden roller coasters in the park, in my opinion. Not just Nickelodeon Streak. It has the best trains of any Woody in the park. But the airtime you get on there is really takes you by surprise. You look at it and go, it's not going to be that high, it's not going to be that intense. But actually, the drops are fairly impressive. The third drop takes you by surprise. And as it goes round the corner, you have a couple of little tiny drops on the run-in back to the station on the home straight, and it builds up a lot of speed, and you literally are flying out of your seat every single time on these up hills of the dips, and it's superb. I mean, it really is. If you just take one look at it and go, it's in Nickelodeon land, so I'm not even going to bother riding that. Don't do that. Give it a chance, because you'll be pleasantly surprised how good that ride is. And it's a couple of years older than the Grand National. You know, it was built in between Big Dipper and Grand National. In another 10 years, that one will be celebrating its 100th birthday. Amazingly. So yeah, I fully, encourage people not to just walk past Nickelodeon land and go, oh, it's all for kids. No, check out Nickelodeon Streak. It's a great ride. Absolutely great ride. I actually think it's better than the Big Dipper. Now, this one, I've just realised I've not put any in good. They're either amazing or decent. And the choice, I'm going to put this as classic coaster as well. Oh, I have to be... Oh, God. Right, okay. Right, judge it on ride experience. Okay, ride experience. Okay, sorry, Big Dipper. I'm going to do it on ride experience and realise that I'm putting something in good. Ride experience, Big Dipper, good. At the minute. Let's see how the retrack and refurb goes this season when it opens up for its 100th birthday. It might be up there. But no, currently, good. The other Woodies do it better. Revolution is classic. Revolution is superb. It's just superb. What is great about Revolution is the pure simplicity of the idea. It's the first looping roller coaster in Europe. It's just a brilliant idea. Get fired into a loop and then get fired backwards through the same loop. 2 launches on either side. Simple as that. And it's brilliant. The first launch, the thing is, the launch itself, the loop's brilliant. And the loop is intense. But it's the launches that are intense, because you're getting launched off a drop. The airtime you get is ridiculous. You get literally flown right out of your seat. And that feeling is great. So when you've got a restraint over the top, you're clearly not going to fly out the coaster. But you are literally, it really takes you like straight on. It's right good. That getting launched out your seat when you go into the drop is actually almost better than the loop. But the loop's magnificent. Going backwards is a lot of fun. You get a view out over the whole park because you're climbing up the stairs, and you get great views of the entire, not just the park, but all of Lytham and far out into Blackpool Tower. And obviously the views from the station are brilliant. And then you got the ride. It's just class. Just classic. Now, I'm going to apologise to all the steeplechase fans out there, but I am actually going to put this in the Goodbye to Pleasure Beach. I think steeplechase is it's a good laugh when you're riding with your mates. However, I think as a ride, I think it takes up a fair amount of space. And I just personally feel that space can be used better. This is not like Wild Mouse, where they got rid of a great wooden roller coaster and replaced it with nothing for no reason. This is where I think they're going to get rid of it. They could get rid of a reasonable coaster. Because on ride experience, it's decent. But I think for the history of the park and going forward, the area where Steeplechase is a huge space. It's a huge area. You could build a... God blimey, what could you build? You could build another Rita type roller coaster there, another launch. You could build another steel corkscrew type coaster there. They could even redo a steel Wild Mouse there. There's so much potential for what they could do there. That space is fairly big, and I think it's time to say goodbye to Steeplechase. It's had its time, and to put something in there that's a bit better. Heck, do you know what? They could even do something similar to the Hogwarts ride at Harry Potter World in the US, where you're literally fired round on like a motorcycle and a sidecar, like launched through various things and weaving in and out. Heck, have that there instead of the horses and stuff. I think Steeplechase for me has had its time, and it's time to move on. And I think it's had its time, and I know some people will be gutted. The French will be absolutely gutted that Steeplechase is going. I won't be shedding too many tears when Steeplechase goes, I have to admit. I think it's fun, but I don't have an overwhelming fondness for it. Heck, if they got rid of Grand National, if they got rid of Revolution, I'd be devastated. I'd be absolutely devastated. I'm gutted when they got rid of Wild Mouse. I wouldn't be gutted if they got rid of Steeplechase. I think it's had its day, and you could just use that space better. So we'll see what happens in the next few years. So the Pleasure Beach Bears have enjoyed, I hope, what I've had to say. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this. I just encourage you all, when you get a chance, to, if you've never been to Blackpool Pleasure Beach before, check it out. Great theme park. In fact, TripAdvisor actually voted it the best theme park in the UK, which was great news for the Northwest. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you soon.